Okay, here's what I believe to be a 91 Lawn Boy. You can see the model here is a L21ZPN. It's a 2-stroke. Found it at a yard sale. It runs, cuts well and everything. But I just want a project, so I'm gonna strip it down, clean up some stuff, repaint it, just kind of make some fun out of it. So here we go. So you can see it's got the mulcher here. It's overall in pretty good shape. I mean, like I say, it runs great. I wanted 40. I paid 20 bucks for it, so it was super cheap. So if I break it, no big deal. It's got the bagger and all that stuff with it, so all that works. I've tried it out before. This right here is an exhaust gasket. It's pretty noisy. I'll see if I can start it. Okay, I got it on full choke. Pull this down. I'm going to try to do this all while holding a camera. Oh, you got to turn the gas on with these. It's right here. Flip it around open. Okay, now let's try it. You'll hear how noisy it is too. It's like midnight, so I'm gonna stop. Okay, so you heard how noisy it is. You saw that it runs though. Usually it starts on the first pull, but because I had the gas off, it took a little bit longer. A couple more pulls, close it back up. I think what the first thing I'm gonna do is just kind of disassemble it, and I'm going to just kind of get it down to the deck and the parts that can be repainted. I'm gonna clean up the wheels and eventually fix the exhaust port and the gasket, and then it should pretty much be good as new. So that's what we're gonna do. Okay, so I got it turned over. This is a 15/16 nut on here, and I'm gonna take the blade off. Okay, so this fits up here in this key. Just came right off. It was no problem. So we pull that off. These little fins will point upward, and that's what helps draw the grass up, apparently. So you see those fins, they're going up. So that goes up like that. So the dirty side is facing up like that too. Okay, so the blade's off. We're gonna have to sharpen that. I'm kind of doing this too, so I can kind of track myself as I tear this thing apart and I get everything back the way it was supposed to go. This little piece, it sits up here. All that I had to do once the blade was off is take a little screwdriver and pry it off, and it came right out. And then you can see this goes up into the shaft, and then there's some bolts that go into here that hold on this housing. I think that this is part of the exhaust, if I have read correctly. So anyway, we'll pull those off, see what happens. Okay, so we took those 3 bolts out. There's all this grass and junk that's up in it. Here's the I guess you'd call it an exhaust manifold that has come through. You can see there's some oil right there, and there's also some on this little triangular piece that came out. Not exactly sure which way this went in. You would think it went this way toward the top, as it fits flush up against here. And then there's the seal, so that's the shaft coming through. So this should, this part right here should be pointing down, it looks like. So we'll clean this up, and then I think I'm gonna pull the motor out so I can get the deck all by itself, and then we can start cleaning it all up. Okay, here's the muffler or the exhaust manifold that I removed, and I think part of my problem why it's so noisy is that. I don't think that's supposed to be there, so I think we've had some sort of issue. Rust or whatever, so we got a hole. So I don't know if this thing's ever going to be quiet, which is okay with me, but anyway, we noticed that. So I did get a replacement gasket. This piece right here I ordered off the internet, and this will actually go up into here. You can see up into there, that's actually our exhaust ports, which these tend to carbon up apparently on these, so I'm going to clean those while I can. And there might be a gasket up in there that that's where that piece goes, so I'll swap that out. I'll show you that too. Okay, so I want to point out, you see how the piston's down now? I pulled the rope until the piston came down, so while I'm cleaning that, I'm not going to put anything in the combustion chamber. Don't want to have an explosion. Then I'm going to use this little dowel rod right here. I'm just going to get up there and kind of clean all the crap out and get that clean while we're here. Okay, we cleaned it out in here. Ports are nice and clean. I vacuumed it all out so we didn't have any crud in there left over. So now we'll pull the motor. Okay, we've got it flipped back over. All I'm going to do now is remove some of the cables. I've got the pull starter here, so I'll remove this, and then I'll disconnect. There you can see that again. And then I'm going to disconnect this cable if I have to. Let's see if we even have to. That one doesn't look like we need to. And then we've got one more. It's our choke and throttle cable, and that one runs all the way up here. And I don't think we're going to have to. I think we'll be able to just take the pull starter and remove it. Okay, so we removed the pull start. That's really all that we had to do there. Now I've got these 1, 2, 3 bolts. I think that's all that holds the motor to the deck, so I'll pull those. Okay, those 3 bolts did the trick. Motor, you can see now, just lifts right out, so I'm going to pull it out. And then I'm also going to remove the bar here and the choke, and that'll about do it. Then I can set the motor aside. Okay, there's the deck. We've got everything pulled off. I'm just going to take the wheels off and get everything down to where I can clean it and paint it. And I'm going to take a wire wheel to it and get all the, I use an angle grinder and get all the old paint off and everything, all the old rust and all that crap. And then there's the motor. And I'm going to clean that up as well. You can see how filthy it is in there. So we'll get all that cleaned up, and I'll change that exhaust gasket as well. Okay, here's the mower. And drained all the gas out of it, of course. And you pull this off after taking out 2 bolts right off the shaft. There's the exhaust port. You can see how filthy it is down there. And then right there is the gasket that I have to change. It's pretty nasty. So I'm going to clean all this up, and we'll swap that gasket. I'm going to clean some of this up, and then we'll get back over to the deck. Okay, clean the motor up a little bit. You can see I put this little cardboard gasket down, put some bolts in it to try to keep some of the worst of the crud from getting in there. So it's not perfect, but cleaned up a little bit. Try to clean this up too, and at least the face of the manifold here, or whatever this is kind of cleaned up, and then the back of it as well. I got some of the worst of the junk off, so whatever, just got that kind of cleaned up. Okay, there's again the deck. I'm gonna continue to pull this apart. Okay, we ran into an issue here. You see these bolts that are supposed to go back in? This is again your cylinder, and then we put the new exhaust gasket in between this piece and the actual block. I already put it in, so I'm not going to pull it back out, but it's pretty thin. But these bolts won't tighten up because they're too short. So we've got this washer that's about the thickness of that new gasket. So I'm going to have to get a new set of bolts that are just a tad longer than this in order to get these to tighten down, because they won't thread up. So we'll get those later, and that ought to fix that. Alright, this is what we have left. I just pulled the top of the handlebar off, and then there's a couple of these wing nuts. Loosen those. I'm going to leave those in place because they've got these caps. I don't want to mess with those. So I'm just going to pull off these wheel assemblies, and then after that it's going to be time to clean it. Okay, well there it is. That's all that's left of the deck. The wheels are off of it. You can see all the parts all over the place. Next step is take the angle grinder and clean it up. So the motor's upside down. Remember we had these bolts that went in here that were too short after we put the new gasket, and so I got some slightly longer ones. They are 5/16 and they work great. The angle grinder, I put this wheel on it that's for removing paint and rust, and then I'm going to start with the handlebar. Get that cleaned up first. So I got the worst of the old paint and rust off. I didn't do a very good job. You can still see there's a fair amount on there, but it's a tricky part. It's not fun, but again, the rust and everything's been kicked off of it. There's some spots you just can't hardly get, so I need a different, probably attachment for that, but anyway, the worst of it's off, and then the new paint will cover that up, so that ought to still look pretty good. The only part that I kept was the old serial number. All that stuff on the back, all the other stickers I grinded off. Didn't want to, but it was too difficult to get around them. So, yeah, that's how she looks. Spraying it all down. I've got all the parts out. I hit them with some Purple Power degreaser, and I've got to hit it all with a brush, but I'm going to continue to clean all this up. I noticed a problem, too. This piece right here started to flake off, so I guess I'm going to have to repaint that. I'll have to pull all that off. Okay, we showed you that right there started to chip, so I'm going to repaint this while I'm at it. We've got to remove this pull cover, so we've got some 5/16 nuts there, and then we've got these just Phillips head screws that we'll take out, and then we should be able to get it. We pulled the pull starter off, took out the screws, and then this comes right out. So it's metal, we'll repaint that, and I would like if I could pull this Lawn Boy thing off so I don't paint it. I think that might be tough. I'm going to see what we can do. Looks like it's just held on with adhesive double stick tape, so we can easily pop that off and put it back on later. So here's all the pieces I'm going to paint. There's Sam Dog, he's going to help. We're going to primer him first. It's primered up now. I'm going to let this dry, and then we'll shoot it with some paint. Here's the color I chose to use. It's Rust-Oleum. They make a Lawn Boy green. You can actually get the paint, but it's expensive and off the internet. So I just went to a hardware store and got this. It's Grabber Green, and I already gave it one coat, and I'll give it many just to make sure we don't miss any spots, but looking good so far. It's coming back together. We've got the paint on it, and I just put the wheels back on it as well. I'll do a quick run around with it. Motor's back on, wheels are on, bars are on, got the choke back on, the pull starter, the bar. What's not on yet is the blade, and obviously any attachment, and a couple stickers I ordered, but we're getting there. There she is. It's the finished product. I think it came out pretty good. It was a lot of fun doing this. The only thing I think I'd do differently throughout the whole thing is instead of using the angle grinder as heavily as I did, I wish I would have tried to use a chemical paint stripper and seen how much I could get off, just because I did leave some marks in the deck as I was getting after it pretty good. These are pretty rare, so it's a steel deck and they tend to rust out, so they get old. You know, this one's a 91, and they just aren't around all that much apparently. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to start it up and let you hear it run.